Welcome back to our class on the Hilchos Shabbos. So last week we talked about the categories, laid out a little bit of the foundational, the different terms that one needs to know regarding the laws of cooking on Shabbos. So today, we mentioned last week the idea of kli rishon, a first vessel, kli sheni, a second vessel. Were you here last week?
No.
So a kli rishon, tonight we'll talk about the laws of kli rishon, sheni, and all these things. A kli rishon is a pot, is the pot in which, or the vessel in which the hot item or liquid has been cooked. Okay, a cholent pot, a soup pot, when it's on the fire, it's been cooked in that pot. That pot is called a kli rishon, even after you took it off the fire. Good. Now, into a kli rishon, therefore, of course, while it's on the fire, you're not allowed to put anything into the kli rishon, even something that's already fully cooked. Why is that? Because it looks like you're cooking. When you put something on the pot, on the fire, it looks like you're cooking, even though you're not cooking. Because technically that which you're putting in is a fully cooked item.
Like salt, like spices also?
No, spices, we'll get to spices soon. But even spices, anything, into kli rishon, on a fire, you're not allowed to put anything. Understood?
Yeah.
Rule number one. Now, what happens if you want to take, you have two pots on the fire. One is hot water, because you have like a samovar, right? You know what a samovar is? You have a pot of hot water on the stove. And you have like a spigot that you can, that comes out the water. And right near it, you have a pot of cholent. And everything is fully cooked. And you want to have now, the cholent is getting a little dry, it needs more water. You're allowed to pick up, you're allowed to take the cholent and put water into it from the kli rishon. That you're allowed to. From one kli rishon into another kli rishon, you're allowed to put water. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wait. On Shabbos, you can...
If it's fully cooked, if everything is cooked. I'm giving you an example of water. You're allowed to add water to a cholent pot on Shabbos. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
From a hot pot of water,
but
that's a
not
kli
if it's
rishon.
Not tap water, already hot
Not
water.
tap water. We're not talking about
No,
tap water. Cooked water, boiling hot water.
From your
From an urn, like this.
Yeah.
yeah.
You're allowed to do that.
Huh.
You have to put it directly into the cholent, or can you put it in a...
Directly into the cholent. Only directly.
Then you have
Only
a kli
that.
sheni, then you have a
Right.
kli sheni.
Only directly.
Right.
Well, you can put, it's not only that, but even direct. I'm saying even
Even
from
direct.
a kli rishon. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So
Sorry.
you can put
Yeah.
the water into a cup
Now,
and then...
when
And then
yeah, then you could.
Yeah.
Then-
Even from a kli rishon, you're allowed.
Yeah, rishon you do, but if you go from a rishon to a sheni,
Yeah.
and then you put, then you're allowed
It's no
to
problem.
do
If it's boiling hot water, you could do it.
Okay.
If it's not on the fire, then you have to take the cholent off the fire.
it. Right.
Wait a minute. You have to take it off the fire to put the water in.
Yeah.
And then you can't put it back on it. It's done for
No, you
months.
can hold it. Someone can hold it, and then you can put it back on. We'll get to putting back that whole thing next week. That'll be our last week about the laws of cooking. I plan to cover today everything besides that. So let's move on. When the kli rishon was taken off the fire, yeah, you're allowed to put something in it if it's completely cooked. That means your soup pot is taken off the fire and put on your table. Mm-hmm. You can take something that's fully cooked, that's dry, and put it in.
And spices, obviously.
Yeah. No, spices if they're fully cooked. You have to make sure that they're cooked. If they're cooked, yeah. We'll talk about spices soon. We'll get there.
But not baked, like you said, no cooked.
No.
Right.
Only
Like
cooked.
you're changing it.
Only something that's fully cooked. Now, I didn't say fully baked.
Sulak.
I didn't say fully baked. We'll get to
Right.
baked soon later.
It's like rice. You can put in.
If it's dry, if it's 100% dry.
No, rice is dry.
Yeah, but if it's wet rice, you're not allowed to put it in. Because yesh bishul achar bishul. There is cooking after cooking by something that's wet. That means even something that's fully cooked, but it got cold, you're not allowed to put it into a kli rishon, or even you're not allowed to put it. You're not allowed to cook it again, even though you say it's already cooked. What am I doing? If it's wet, if you're heating up hot wet, is no cold wet is no good. You can't do it on the kli rishon. But hot water you could put it. Hot wet you could put it. It's cooked and it's hot. There's nothing you're doing wrong. You're not cooking it now because it's cooked right now. If it's cold, you're not allowed to put it in. You get that, yeah? Do you? Yeah. Something that dissolves, like salt. Or something that dissolves. Something that dissolves, you're not allowed to put. You're not allowed to re-dissolve. You're not allowed, even if it's cooked, you're not allowed to put it into a kli rishon. Why?
It changes the structure completely.
Because once it dissolves into a liquid, it has the law of a liquid. And just like you're not allowed to put a cold liquid into a hot kli rishon, you're not allowed to put a cold dissolving agent into a kli rishon. Because it's when they come liquid, it has the law of liquid. So you can't put salt into a pot, into your soup, into a kli rishon. We'll talk soon about a kli sheni. You get this or not?
Mm-hmm.
And this is true with all dissolving things. If it's a kli rishon, you're not allowed to put it in. Now, how about pouring from a kli rishon onto something? Not putting something into the kli rishon, instead pouring the kli rishon onto something. Are you allowed to pour from your pot onto something else? So the truth is that it has almost the same law as a kli rishon itself. You're not allowed to. So again, if it's something that's dry and cooked, you could, no problem. Just like you're allowed to put a dry cooked thing into the kli rishon if it's off the fire, you're certainly allowed to pour from the kli rishon onto something that's already cooked and dry. If something is a liquid and wet, and a liquid that is cold, you're not allowed to. Because by a liquid, you're cooking it again. So you're not allowed to cook even by pouring from the kli rishon onto the liquid. You're following me, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Does this all make sense based on I laid out the ground rules last week. And therefore, so you can't pour it onto something that will dissolve. So you can't put coffee into a cup and go over to the spigot and turn it on and put it in there, because you're cooking that coffee. Even though it's already cooked, it's going to dissolve. It has the law of something that's liquid, and it's cold, you're not allowed to do it.
Wait a minute.
But you could take the coffee and put it into the hot cup.
You can take the coffee.
The powdered coffee.
We'll get to a kli sheni soon. We're talking about kli rishon now.
Right.
Pouring from a kli rishon into the cup,
Right.
full of coffee. You're not allowed to do it because it dissolves.
Now, what if it's very, very strong coffee in a liquid form already? Some
If it's
people.
liquid and it's cold, you're not allowed to, for sure.
Sure.
Even if it's dry and you're not allowed. If it's liquid, for sure you're not allowed. If it's cold,
If it's cold.
yeah, you're not
But if
allowed.
it's hot, you can.
If it's hot, then you'll see. So yeah,
Yeah.
if it's hot you could. Yeah. Something that is baked, you're not allowed to pour from a kli rishon onto challah that's baked. Because yesh bishul afra acharafiyah. Something could become cooked even though it was baked. You can't cook something once it was cooked. But you could cook something once it was baked. So if you take a piece of challah and you're pouring from the kli rishon onto the piece of challah because you want to get it wet, whatever, you're not allowed.
Go back for a second to the coffee and
Yeah, what about the
instant coffee.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to put the coffee in the cup and then the hot water because it's going to dissolve the coffee.
Right.
Is that what you're saying?
You're not allowed to take I'm saying from the kli rishon,
Yeah, right.
from your urn, from the
Right.
urn in which it's being cooked. You're not allowed to pour it directly onto hot coffee. No, to dry coffee.
So how do you have your coffee in?
You'll see. You have to do it. You have to pour it into a second.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next, But you're allowed to pour from the kli rishon onto something that is dry and fully cooked, if it's not going to dissolve. Or onto something that's wet and hot. But if it's wet and cold, you're not allowed to. Clear. Next. Water from a faucet. Are you allowed to turn on the faucet? So there's a different problem with that, because it's connected to the boiler, and every time you turn it on the hot water, you're drawing, new water is entering the boiler and cooking it. So you're not allowed to take hot water from a faucet on Shabbos. But if someone did, but let's say you turned off your boiler. You turned off your boiler. So there's no problem with that anymore. So now you're allowed to turn on the hot water, because it's not doing anything. Like the first couple of hours of Shabbos when the water in the boiler is still hot enough, right? That has a law of iri kli rishon. The faucet is like pouring from a kli rishon. So there's that you know. So the same laws apply to, just like you're not allowed to take from a pot that was on the fire, the same laws apply to the faucet hot water.
So if you don't shut the
boiler, you can't open it at all.
You can't open the hot water.
Of course not. A solid food that has been cooked in a kli rishon. You have a pot roast. A piece of pot roast, Shabbos. You baked it in the oven. It's a kli rishon. You take it out of the oven, you take the pot roast, you put it into something else. You put it into a kli sheni. Right? Some say that a dover gush, something that is a solid, like a baked potato, a piece of hot roast, the fact that you're putting it into a kli sheni is not cooling it off. Liquid gets cooled off when you pour it into a second cup, but a roast doesn't. A chunk of meat won't get cooled off when you put it into something else. It's the same hot, so it has a law of a kli rishon even if it's in a kli sheni. So, for example, you're not allowed to smear mayonnaise, cold mayonnaise, onto a hot potato.
Cooling it down.
Because you're cooking
cooking the mayonnaise.
Even though the hot potato is already in a kli shlishi or kli sheni or whatever. Okay?
Rabbi, you have like the...
And once again, you're not allowed to put salt on the hot potato. Because the salt's going to, if it dissolves, if it's the type of salt that dissolves, yeah.
You have these, when you use it for Shabbat, but like instant hot, like it's always supplying hot water to your faucet, through a filter, and it goes on and off like automatically. It doesn't matter whether you use it or not. It's on its own schedule. It's
what?
Always hot.
It's always hot. It's called instant hot.
What is it? What is it made? What is it? It's a liquid. What is it?
This here, it's like this here, no?
No, it's under your sink. It's a box. It's got a spout like your faucet, and you pull a little lever, and hot water comes out.
Oh, hot water. Oh,
yeah. As a thermostat. No, but I'm saying it's. I wouldn't use it on Shabbat, but it would almost seem like you could almost use it because
it's going off and on.
It's on and off on its own. It's
but
not.
Still,
I don't know the mechanics
you'll
of that.
definitely into it. Once you use it,
It's
this
making
fresh water
noises,
comes
it's
in.
making noises all the time.
No, I know
Whether
what it is.
I use
Yeah.
it or not.
It's like your
No,
air
it's not.
conditioner, no?
But don't
No.
forget,
It's
once
controlled by a
you,
thermostat.
Yeah, it's controlled by a thermostat.
It's on its
Exactly.
own schedule.
Yeah, but if the water level gets below a certain
Yeah, you
level,
use-
and then other water goes in that fills it up, it
it'll
lowers
definitely
the
go on.
temperature and then it turns
Yeah, I'm
itself.
saying I wouldn't use it, but it's almost like
Yeah.
it's almost like places have like some kind of instant hot thing that's always.
We used to when I was in New York, we had those. We used more. You don't see too many over here.
Yeah.
You always have hot water, so if you make tea or something, you have to boil it.
Got it?
Yeah.
Now, when is a solid considered a kli rishon, even if it's in a kli sheni? Only if it's on its own. But if it's part of the soup, for example, a piece of chicken in the soup is part of the soup. So the minute you pour the soup into a kli sheni, it has the din of a kli sheni already. Even the piece of meat, even the piece of chicken. You get that, yeah? Difference. Okay. And therefore, if you had a wet plate, and you take a hot potato, you put it into the wet plate, you're making a problem. You're cooking the water. You have to be careful. Then if you take a hot piece of roast, you put it in a dry surface. Yeah. Okay, what's the din of a kli sheni, which is very hot? A kli sheni that's hot. That means you took the vessel and you filled up a cup from the kli rishon. Now the water that's in this cup is a kli sheni. Let me do a few illustrations over here. Why is this not working? Oh, it is. Okay, this is the kli rishon. I'm putting it into a kli sheni now.
Right.
Okay. If I put it in here, this will be a kli shlishi, the third vessel. Okay. So right now it's in a kli sheni. It's hot water, boiling hot water. Some say there's a machlekes in the Gemara in the Poskim. Some say that this still has the power to cook. That if you put something in here, it will cook it. It's hot enough to cook it.
We said that before, no?
No, it's kli rishon.
Ah.
Kli sheni, there's some that say that doesn't have the power to cook. Some that say it does have the power to cook. So
So you
therefore,
can't add the coffee to this.
so you cannot put things. For example, you can't dip a biscuit into this water. You can't do that on Shabbos because yesh bishul achar afiyah. And if this can cook, you're cooking the biscuit, even though it's baked already. You follow? So now you're not allowed to pour from a kli. You're not allowed to put it into a kli rishon. You're not even allowed to pour from a kli rishon. Now we're saying that you're not, even if it's in the kli sheni already, it still has the power to cook, according to some. And we're machmir, and we are stringent to follow that opinion, and therefore we treat a kli sheni as something that can cook, and therefore it's a problem. What happens if it's something that is dry, that is cooked already? You can put it in it, just like you could put it into a kli rishon, because it's already cooked. It's not baked, if it's cooked.
An example. What?
I can think of a lot of things that you can put. A dry lokshen. A dry lokshen into this pot, into this thing.
Yeah.
But if it's wet, that's something else. But if it's dry. Spices, you're allowed to put into a kli sheni. Okay? You asked me about tea last week, right?
Yes.
What kind of tea are you talking about?
Tea bags.
Tea bags. Tea bags, yeah, you should use a kli shlishi.
Ah.
You should use a kli shlishi for tea, for coffee, and all these things.
So actually, you can use it. You're allowed to use the tea bag, but with kli shlishi.
Right. Yeah.
Oh.
We're makel. We do
Because I
that.
always
Yeah.
make tamsi.
Some people say that some people make a sense before Shabbos. That's how you do it.
Yes.
Okay, so continue doing that. Yeah. But most people are makel to make tea if it's in a kli shlishi. When there comes a tea bag, you have to be careful sometimes. When you pull the tea bag out, that could be better. That could be considered selecting. You're taking the bad out of the good because you want to get rid of the tea bag. So it's not so simple. You have to be careful with all these things.
I better stick to what I was doing.
No, it's
Seriously.
Don't drink.
No. I
no,
need
you can
the-
drink.
Yeah,
That's not
no.
an answer. That is not an answer.
No, I have the tea. It's, how do you say tach-
You make it ahead of time, like a
Tea
concentrate.
yeah. Make it ahead of time.
The coffee we have in kli shishi.
Looks like he'll take Florida.
Yeah?
Yeah, 91% in. He is almost 80,000 votes ahead. Well, I thought it was
It's
a gunner.
nothing.
Yeah, but it's not done. No. Okay. Sorry for that interruption. All right, salt. You're not allowed to put salt into a dissolving salt into a kli sheni. That means like this. This is a very practical law. Your wife goes over and gives you a bowl of soup on Shabbos. She took the ladle, put it into the vessel, into the pot, put it into your soup. What is the soup bowl considered? A kli sheni or kli shlishi? Well, some can argue that the ladle is the kli sheni and the bowl, but we don't go by that. The ladle we consider a kli rishon because you're putting it into the kli rishon, so it gets hot like a kli rishon. So the soup is a kli sheni. Now you forgot to put enough salt. You want to put new salt. You got a problem. So the best thing to do is you put it in a kli shlishi. tell you if it's missing salt, you go over to the kitchen, you take another bowl, you pour it into the bowl, and then you put in the salt. Understood?
So really, anytime there's a doubt, you put it into a shlishin, yeah.
That's why we should always do a kli shlishi.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it. Okay. A thermos. What's a thermos called? Consider.
Thermos will be sheni.
No, we consider because it's the heating aid. It keeps it hot. It won't let it
Going
cool
from
off.
one to the other.
I know, but because the thermos has an element within it that keeps it hot, so it has the din of a kli rishon. But when you're pouring from the thermos onto something else, that's called iri kli sheni. That's as if you're pouring it from a kli sheni, not from a kli rishon. And you understand? So from a kli rishon, you wouldn't be allowed to pour on certain things. From a kli sheni, this you can already pour on certain things. Even though we say stick to kli shlishi, then put everything in there. But some say no. Some say a kli sheni is like that. The third vessel is like the pouring from a second vessel. So, for example, if you want to make tea, or coffee, I put the water into one vessel,
And then
I put it into a second, and then I put the coffee in there.
right.
The truth is, I'm not sure why. I don't know why I can't put first the coffee into the cup and then pour from here. It's an interesting... But that's how I've seen it done. I'm trying to figure out what the difference is. I think the difference is because it dissolves. So kli sheni still causes something to dissolve, and some say that pouring from this kli sheni onto something that easily gets cooked, something that gets cooked easily, it still has the power to cook. So therefore we put it into the kli shlishi and then we put it in there. You follow? In a kli shlishi, if you're pouring your soup into a third vessel, so another thing. In a kli sheni, if you're putting only one vessel, you're not allowed to put in baked croutons. Because yesh bishul achar afiyah, there's cooking after baking. And in a kli sheni, it still has the power to cook. You're also not allowed to dip your challah into the soup. Sometimes people like to dip the challah into the soup. You're not allowed to do it. You're not allowed to throw matzah into your soup. Therefore, for all these things, it's always better to just throw it into a third keli, and that's it. And then you can do everything. You follow?
So when the girls bring out the soup at the Shabbos table, they've already put it into...
No, not necessarily.
No?
I would say most times not. They're not doing that. That's why I don't put croutons and I don't put salt.
Ah.
Yeah, probably sheni.
The truth is, I don't put salt at all. Dissolving salt, it's also another thing. The Alter Rebbe is very machmer when it comes to salt. Because it dissolves, he says that in a cliche, you shouldn't, the cliche, you could. You can put salt in the cliche. You get it? Let's move on. What's the ladle? So I explained you already the ladle. So now there's a very interesting thing that for practical purposes, you take this, your wife goes over to the soup, she takes it off the pot fire. Of course, you can't ladle things out of the soup while it's on the fire. You can ladle it once it's off the fire. By the way, you're not allowed to stir a pot even if it's off the fire with a ladle. Because stirring is like cooking.
But you can go down to the bottom of the bowl.
And take out. You can ladle out. Yeah,
Right.
you can ladle out, but not do this. So you ladle out some soup, you put it into the thing. Then you put it down. You go to the table. Anyone still need soup? Oh, Yankel didn't have soup yet. She comes back in, takes the ladle, puts it into the soup again, and puts it in. Got a problem there. The liquid on the ladle got cooled off in those 2 minutes that you walked in. Now you're putting it into the klidish and you cook that liquid.
You mean
no joke. No joke.
The ladle was not left in the...
that's why you should leave the ladle in the soup till you're finished. So when you're ladling one soup after the other, it's not a problem because the liquid is still warm. Once it's still warm, you can put it back into the klidish. You remember I said that, right? Hot water, you're allowed to put back into the klidish. But as long as it's still warm. But if you went into the dining room and you're checking around, who doesn't need soup? It takes a 1 minute to cool off. So when you use one after the other, it's not a problem. But that's why it's always best to leave the ladle in the soup. You got that? Okay, we talked about yesh bishul achar bishul. There is cooking after cooking, right? Let's try to define that a minute. That's what something. There's no cooking after cooking. Sorry, there's no cooking after cooking. When does that apply? So I already explained. We'll repeat ourselves for a minute. That applies only to dry goods. Wet goods, yesh bishul achar bishul. You could cook. In other words, this water, yeah, it cools off, and you put it back. You can cook it again. Something that's cooked, lokshen that's dry, it's never going to be able to cook it again. All you're doing is warming it up. No problem. You're not cooking. But when you put cold water into the pot again, you're cooking it again. It's just water is that's the din, that's the law. Yesh bishul achar bishul b'davar lach, by a liquid. How about a dry, wet thing? It's like wet.
No.
You can't reheat it. You can't reheat a wet piece, a lokshen that's wet, a kugel that's wet, anything that's wet. Food from the freezer. You take out a piece of chicken from the freezer, or something that has a layer of ice on it, like a little. You're not allowed to put it in there.
Water.
You can. There's water. You're not allowed to do it. You're not allowed to heat it up.
Can you put it in the sun?
No. Well, it's not going to cook. The sun's
Like
not going
that.
to make it hot.
No, it's defrosted.
But you're not allowed to cook
Defrost it,
under the
throw it
sun
out.
either. You're not allowed to cook under the sun. You know that.
It's not cooking.
In other words,
right?
you're
You
not
put
allowed
it-
to go over to a hot car, a hood of a car, and throw an egg and crack an egg open on the hood of the car. You're going to cook the egg. It's
No.
in the middle of the hot summer.
No,
You're
yeah.
going to cook that egg, even though it's not fire. It's the sun. It's cooking.
No, but a frozen challah, like on the windowsill, so it thaws out enough so you can eat it.
But you're not allowed to heat it up. If it's just to defrost, you're allowed to
Yeah, it's
defrost.
defrost.
Yeah, you're allowed to defrost, sure. But not the heat. There's a difference. Are you allowed to heat up a piece of chicken that has gel? You know, when you put it in the fridge, you know,
Yeah.
the gel will dissolve. It'll become a problem. So you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to heat up a piece of chicken that has gel on it. That has the congealed,
It's the fat. It's
the
the
gravy,
fat.
the fat that congealed. Yeah. Even if it's not congealed, for sure not. You know, either way, you're not allowed. Yeah. Dry kugel, you're allowed to heat up because it's cooked. As long as it's dry.
How do you heat it up?
You put it on top of a rishon. For example, you put it on top of the stove. Not on the stove itself, on top of a pot that's on the stove.
No, you couldn't put on the blech. 'cause
No,
the
you can't
blech's-
put it on the blech
Because the
itself.
blech's just like the stove, but if
You're
there
not
was
allowed
a-
to put it on the blech.
But if there was a pot of soup,
Then you can put it on the soup if it's dry. That means you're allowed to heat something that's dry.
Yes.
What?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah.
But doesn't the steam from the liquid in the pot wet the dry?
That's no problem. There's nothing. In other words, this thing is dry and it's
Right.
cooked already.
Right, it's
So
cooked
what's your
already.
problem? What are you worried about? Reheating is not a problem as long as it doesn't cook it. The problem of Shabbos is cooking, not reheating. So if the reheating is causing cooking, it's a problem. If the chicken is not fully cooked, of course you're not allowed to put it on the thing. If something is not fully cooked, you're not allowed to put it on to get it to become hot.
So if you have
Only if it's fully cooked.
if you have a pot on the blech and the blech is it's been left on, okay, and the pot is hot, and you could put chicken on top of that, assuming it's meat, and it could heat up for lunch.
Say it again.
You've got to your blech is on, and there's a pot of hot soup or whatever on top of the.
Yeah.
You could put a piece of chicken on top of that and heat it up.
On top of the pot.
On top of the
A
pot.
dry piece of chicken.
Yeah, that's already been
That's
cooked.
fully cooked, yeah.
But you cannot put the pita bread on top of the, urn to warm up.
Why not?
Because what's going to happen is wetted and it's a baking bishul after.
No, you're not cooking. It's not. It's warm. It's not. You're not
dry.
cooking. You're not putting it into the pot. You're putting it on top.
Just warming it up.
You're just warming it up. You're not cooking it. So you're not allowed to put it in the pot.
Right,
No.
right.
You're not allowed to put in the pot anything on Shabbos if it's on the blech. So because it looks like you cook it. But once it's off the blech, if you want to warm up the pita, when the pot is off the blech, you're allowed to, or even on the blech, you're allowed to put it on the top of the pot. It's no problem.
But is the pita frozen?
Ah,
If it's
right.
wet, that's a
It's gonna-
problem.
yeah,
Then you're
right.
going to cook it. That's wet. I
So
told you,
can't
wet
put
is
it
a
on
problem.
black.
Yeah. If it's wet, I don't know that pita is wet. When it's
Well, if
No,
it's
even
frozen-
No,
if
it's
frozen.
cold.
frozen doesn't mean it's wet.
No.
But it's gonna
Unless
be
it's got some ice
frozen.
on
It's
it.
gonna
Ours
Is
is.
yeah.
You gotta
you
seal the
defrost
bake,
it's gonna
make sure
be
it's
damp
sealed.
and isn't it?
Defrosted.
Frosting it.
Mashed potatoes. Are you allowed to put in butter or margarine?
No.
No,
You're gonna dissolve.
I don't. It's a problem. If the mashed potatoes is hot. Mandlin, croutons. So there's different types of croutons. If it's baked, you're not allowed to put it into kli sheni. If it's deep fried, then you're allowed to put it because it's not called baked; it's called cooked. Then it's cooked already, so it's not a problem. So you have to look on the thing. As I said, if you're going to put the soup into a third vessel, you can
No
put it out. There's no
problem,
problem.
So you know what people even that don't know this, you may want to just do that automatically when you serve to people.
It's best if they don't know and they're going to put in salt and all these things.
Better to put it
Maybe
in.
it's better to put it into just
Mm.
just have one plate over there.
And just keep
They just keep
That-
pouring it in from there.
That's why I asked if the girls
Better,
do
we
that.
don't do it. I don't
Yeah.
think we don't do it.
So if someone did eat out of it, let's say at your house, Rabbi, somebody did put croutons in, does it make the vessel, does it do anything to the vessel?
Say that again.
If someone did put croutons in, they thought that it was,
Into kli sheni.
yeah,
Mm.
Yeah. What about it?
does it affect the kosher status of
No,
the
no,
vessel?
not at all.
No.
Has nothing to do with kosher.
Um,
Okay. Okay. Here's an interesting thing. Your wife goes over to the soup pot on Shabbos, or you want to see what the soup looks like, or your nose, you want to see what the cholent looks like. Take off this, take off the thing. Looks good. Put it back on. No, not necessarily. If the cholent is not fully cooked,
Mhm.
then you're not allowed to cover it again, because by your covering it, you're hastening the cooking. Obviously, right?
You can put it back on?
You can't put it back on.
Right.
If it's not fully cooked.
Oh, you're just talking about the lid.
The lid, yeah.
Oh.
Talking about the lid. Took off the lid to look inside. You can't put it back
Oh.
on. If it's not fully cooked. If it's not fully cooked.
Why?
Because when you cover it, you're causing now that the fire under it should cook it faster. If it's open, it would take longer to cook. If it's covered, it takes
Everybody
shorter.
does it. You always pick up paper.
That's not allowed if it's not fully cooked.
Yeah, right.
Here's another problem.
How can you not?
You take, your wife goes over on Friday night to serve soup. She takes off the soup from the pot, takes off the lid, puts it down on the countertop. Starts giving everyone soup. The soup is still hot 2 minutes later, very hot. She takes the lid and puts it back on. That could be a problem because that lid is wet with water.
Cool.
And that water now got cool. You're putting it on there, that heat cannot heat up that cool, and you have a problem. So you have to be careful with that.
We learn to dry our cups and everything. No, seriously.
Just like the ladle. The ladle is the
Yeah.
same, like I said before with the
Yeah.
ladle, the same thing with that. Now, when you're going over to make coffee, you find it's a dirty cup. A mug, you found a mug is dirty. You go, you wash it out, you rinse it out, and it's clean. Now you have to make a kli shlishi, right? You go over to the urn, and you pour into that keli, and that you're going to put into another keli. You violated Shabbos because it's still wet, and you're putting now water from the kli rishon into that cup. You cooked a little bit of leftover water, so you have to dry it out to make sure that the vessels that you're using are all dry. Follow? Now, a lot of times I like chicken soup. So Friday night, a lot of times I say, I want one bowl, give me one bowl, I want another bowl. So what I do is I give my daughter the bowl after I finished eating it, and she goes and nonchalantly fills up another with a ladle. You violated Shabbos. Because that bowl is now wet, and the leftover may be cold already. So that's a problem. You can't just add. If it's still warm, any kind of warm, it's no problem. But if
you
it
got
got
to dry
cold,
it out.
you have to take another plate. You can't use that unless you start washing it and drying it. You know.
Yeah.
Instant soup. You know the instant soups?
Yeah.
In a kli shlishi, you're allowed to do it. Because it's cooked already, so you're not really...
But it has salt, Rabbi.
A lot of sodium.
A lot of
But you're
sodium.
doing it in the klishishi.
It has sodium? What's the issue with sodium?
Salt.
Oh, it's going to dissolve. So I
Yeah.
said that's why you need a kli shlishi.
Shlishi,
That's why you need a kli shlishi. Otherwise, you can do it in a kli rishon. Because it dissolves. Instant mashed potatoes, again, you should use a kli shlishi, because all that dissolves. But does it? Instant mashed potatoes dissolves? What happens to it?
Sure.
Yeah.
Baked
Okay.
potato, you can't put anything on.
Depends. You can
Yeah.
put a baked potato on a cookie, on a cracker.
No,
and
I'm
eat it
saying
together.
like margarine or something. You can't.
It melts it. You know,
Melts
melts
it.
Margarine?
Yeah, well, like
Yeah, if
that.
it melts, it's a
Yeah.
problem. I said that before.
Mm.
Can't put margarine on a baked potato, on a hot baked potato.
Now, if you already have the margarine liquefied,
If it's water,
if you liquefy the margarine, melt the margarine before it's already in a liquid state, you could pour it on the baked potato.
No, then it becomes hot. Aren't you
No,
doing
it's
it?
already hot.
Hot what?
It's hot margarine. It's already warmed up.
where's it warm? How did you warm it up?
It's been on the blech.
Oh, so then what?
Right, I'm saying, so you could have, if
If it's a liquid,
if it's already a liquid,
Yeah.
and it's already warm,
it's not a problem.
right.
Put olive oil on there.
You're not doing anything wrong. The baked potato is baked. This is cooked.
Yeah.
Is the baked potato considered baked? Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, right.
Is that considered
Baked and then cooking.
I don't think that's called baked. No, that's called a cooked potato. In other words, bread is baked, cookies are baked, flour. It's like a pot roast. You're also putting it in the oven. Or gefilte fish. That's not called baked. That's called cooked. Even though you're putting it in the oven. All right. Let's do one last thing, and we'll continue next week and try to wrap up the laws of cooking on Shabbos. Baby food. Yeah, I don't know. No one over here has babies, but you're allowed to, for example, you're allowed to put a bottle into how do you warm up a bottle with cold milk? So if you put the water into kli sheni, and then you put the bottle into that, it's no problem. To warm up the milk a little, it's not a problem. Or you can pour from the kli rishon onto the bottle. You hold the bottle and you start pouring and turning it around. The reason is because it's not making contact with the liquid. Instant cereal should be prepared for a baby, for example. They have the instant cereal, right? You pour it from a kli sheni or in a kli shlishi, like we do anything else, coffee, tea, whatever. It's all the same. I think we're done. I think we're going to leave it at that.
So if you have like oatmeal, instant oatmeal,
Yeah.
Right.
you pour it, you have a sheni.
Instant oatmeal to make farina.
Yeah.
That's cooked already?
Well,
What happens to it?
No, I don't think it
I don't
was.
think it's cooked. No, is instant oatmeal cooked already?
I
It's
don't think
toasted?
so.
Is it roast or was it raw?
It's actually, it's baked, so it might be not good.
It's
because
called baked?
It's
Just
already
baked?
ready, so if you put it in hot water, it's already...
Is it like matzah meal, for example?